Welcome, Gunrunner.
If we look back at all the hardware left unreleased by former market leader Sega, we can spot a common theme, a rather strange one in fact, that is definitely worth elaborating on further. This theme is disk drive add-ons. I bet you weren't expecting that, were you? In fact, they developed some sort of disk drive based add-on for every single one of their 5 hardware generations, from the SC3000 computer up to the Dreamcast, which we will be looking at in more detail in this very video. But before we move on to the subject matter at hand here, the unreleased Dreamcast Zip Drive, let's have a quick look at all the similar devices that came before it, to refresh our memories.
Hoping to win back a larger share of the market. CNN technology correspondent Rick Lockridge reports.
In the cutthroat video game industry, one word seems to be all-powerful.
The graphics. Better graphics means it's more realistic.
And embattled Sega's new Dreamcast video game console is graphically better. The first home unit able to handle 128 computer bits of data at once. Twice as much as the Sony PlayStation and Nintendo 64 machines that dominate the $12 billion a year U.S. video game market.
60 frames a second, which is twice the speed of a TV. It equals graphics you've never seen before. When you watch a football game, it looks like you're watching a real game on TV.
Video game images are made up of tiny polygons. Dreamcast can draw 3 million of those polygons a second, up to 15 times more than competing systems.
Does that make that much of a difference to a player?
Yes, it does. It's more exciting.
It's really smooth. I didn't see any errors.
Sega's errors as a company, though, have been well documented. Its last home console flopped, and it's seen its market share plummet from more than 50% to about 1%. Can Dreamcast end Sega's nightmare?
They have a lot banking on the Dreamcast. Again, they're a leap. It's sort of a leap in video game technology, and Sega's going to use this to make a comeback into the marketplace.
The $199 Dreamcast comes with a built-in modem, making it the first set built for online gaming. 18 games will be available right away. You can fight, fish, or skateboard. There's also a much-anticipated football game, NFL Y2K.
Which, to quote all the media today, is saying this is by far the best sports simulator ever brought to gaming.
Sonic will have to run pretty fast to catch Nintendo and Sony, but Sega's off to a good start there, having already pre-sold 300,000 of the Dreamcast consoles. The company hopes to sell 1 million units by Christmas. Rick Lockridge, CNN, Los Angeles.
Firstly, we have the Super Control Station FF7000, which was released in 1984 for use with Sega's 8-bit home computer, the SC3000. This would allow the user to run software off 3-inch floppy disks, as well as adding a further 64 kilobytes of RAM, 8 kilobytes of ROM, a Centronics parallel port, and an RS-232 serial port to the system. Because of the high price of this add-on, it failed to take off as hoped, and remains a real curiosity from Sega's long and illustrious past. You have to wonder if its failure sat in the back of Sega's mind when they came to considering the cancellation of its successors. The SC3000's console cousin was the SG1000, which used much of the same hardware, and was replaced 2 years later by the backwards compatible Sega Mark III, which was better known as the Master System in most other countries. Not long after the Master System was first announced to the press, Sega revealed that as well as being able to play games from cartridge, as well as Sega cards, they had also developed a new add-on called the Sega Master Drive. This unit would sit underneath the Master System, much like the way the original model of the Mega CD sat underneath the Mega Drive, and offered access to a much more standard 3.5-inch double-sided disk drive. The idea was that as well as being able to use this to play much cheaper priced games, it could also be utilised for saving the progress of your titles too. However, before the Master System hit retail shelves, the peripheral was quietly cancelled. Although the true reason for this has never been revealed, it's been speculated that the threat of piracy was the deciding factor. If you want to know more about the Sega Master Drive, and indeed the Super Control Station that came before it, I've produced an entire video digging into that very story too. Just click the link in the top right hand corner to take a look.
My name is Ryo Hazuki. My father was killed by the warlord Lan Di. During my quest for vengeance, I've traveled far and wide, and consorted with numerous unsavory characters. But enough about me. Let's talk about you, Nozomi.
Brian? Brian? Brian! Who's Nozomi?
Shenmue on Dreamcast, rated T for teen.
Now by this point it probably seems like Sega are very much flogging a dead horse and wasting huge chunks of their R&D budget in the process, but they actually announced a similar device to the Mega Drive just a few years later too. Like the Master Drive, this was shown off to the press before being quietly cancelled without reason, but we do have some lovely pictures to drool over. Come on, you have to confess this add-on looks super sexy with its curvy stylings. With another Sega developed disc drive thrown in the bin, you'd think that they would have given up by the time the Saturn came along, especially as that console already offered pretty considerable ROM-based storage, but oh no, they still came back for another go. Released in 1996, the Saturn floppy disk drive was developed so owners could save user data to 3.5-inch floppy disks instead of the more costly backup cartridges. Unsurprisingly, it was only ever released in Japan and supported by very few games, most notably Panzer Dragoon Saga. This floppy disk drive connected to the Saturn using the console's rear extension communication terminal, however it required its own AC adapter to function. Primarily, the Sega Saturn FDD acted as a substitute for the console's internal save memory, with a floppy disk offering 50 times more storage. Although many games can access it directly, you could move data between the internal and disk storage using a special piece of software that came bundled with it.
If someone said you could look more beautiful overnight, wouldn't you give it a try? My secret is Dreamcast. I tried it, and I've never looked so good. Want to know how it works?
Dreamcast's 128-bit processor makes Lara more beautiful than ever before.
So I look flawless, even on the run.
The Dreamcast Beauty Treatment, as used by Lara Croft in Tomb Raider: The Last Revelation.
So last but not least, let's look at the Sega Zip Drive, Sega's final attempt at harnessing magnetic media for use with one of their games consoles. The device was designed by Sega in conjunction with iOmega, the actual creator of the storage format itself, who had already released similar devices for use with the PC that had proved fairly popular. The drive was conceived after it was found there was a high demand for more storage space on Sega's own servers. These servers were used for saving email, data and web pages when using the Sega Dreamcast Online. As well as boosting web-based storage, the Dreamcast Zip Drive could also be used to save game update data too. Sega speculated they would be able to offer the very first types of DLC in this manner, such as new map data for Quake or new characters in fighting games for example. It would be possible to save up to 100 megabytes per disc, exactly the same as the original PC version of the drive, but the two would not be compatible in any way, and the Dreamcast device would use its own specially designed firmware and formatting. The ZD was made to fit under the Dreamcast using the modem ports on the console to connect it up. The ZD would then have its own connectors on the side of the unit to attach the modem. This is not all though, it also featured a front-mounted USB port, which would have allowed the connection of all kinds of new peripherals. This very much hints at a plan for Sega to turn the Dreamcast into an all-in-one multimedia device, much like another cancelled Dreamcast project in the Pacebox. Yes, I've already covered that too, so if you don't already know about it, then click that link in the top right as always. The Zip Drive reportedly made it to the last stage of development, with several pre-production prototypes being made for use at press events. It was announced that it would be priced at $199 and would be released during the third quarter of 2000. Like many of these unreleased Sega add-ons, the exact reason for its cancellation is unclear, although we can certainly speculate. Firstly, it could have been because the zip disk format was already in decline by mid-1999, as large hard drives became considerably cheaper, and it was likely an expensive add-on to manufacture also. Of course, the Dreamcast itself was in rapid decline by the proposed release date too, with the PlayStation 2 massively eating into its sales, so perhaps this was around the time Sega decided their console was a lost cause. At least one prototype of the unit is known to exist in the hands of a collector, and one even popped up on eBay in autumn 2007, which eventually sold for a whopping £3,620, but I'd speculate it's worth a lot more than that in today's ever-inflating retro market.
なんか彼氏からプレゼントもらっちゃって。何もらったの？これ。ゲシーマン。え？ 何？
よう、お前二股かけてんだってな、やつと。
Dreamcast!
And that concludes the story of the unreleased Sega Dreamcast Zip Drive. It really is amazing just how much hardware Sega either cancelled or never supported properly over the years. You do have to wonder if all the money they wasted affected their ability to support the Dreamcast and Saturn properly. But I want to know if the Sega Dreamcast Zip Drive is a device that would have tickled your fancy back in the day. Or do you think it was yet more wasted money by Sega and best forgotten about? Please let me know in the comments. I'm always interested to hear your thoughts. But before I go, I must thank all of my loyal patrons for continuing to support my channel and make videos like this possible, giving special thanks to the following patrons in particular: Thunder Fundington, John DiLiberto, Carl Olsen, Mark Lawrence, Chaotic, Seth Robinson, James Taylor and Coldar Fusion. If you also want to help support all my creative endeavours, including this YouTube channel, then please go and check out my Patreon right now, where you can get access to a host of extra content including downloads, exclusive videos, creative insights and much more besides. I've been the Laird, and I thank you for watching, and I'll see you all again for another video very soon.